Oh, good morning. How are you feeling? Well rested? I doubt it. You probably didn't get enough sleep last night, or maybe you got to bed after midnight, went to bed a bit late and decided to make up for it by having a lie-in. Maybe, like me, you often have suitcases under your eyes instead of bags. And whatever it may be, you might not be giving sleep enough focus, and it might just be time to start. In my journey to becoming happier and generally learning more about happiness, I wanted to start making some commitments. And one of those was to get more sleep. Firstly, because when I'm without sleep, I'm irritable, frustrating to be around, and snappy. But secondly, I wanted to understand that if I got into a proper sleeping pattern, would it really fix me up? So, to start understanding this, I called up a couple of friends to see if they wanted to get involved in an activity. This is Dan, and this is Matt. Between the three of us, we have differing sleeping patterns, and for the next week, we're going to track using smartwatches and the like how much sleep we're getting each night. Throughout each day, we'll also be repeatedly answering one question. How are you feeling? With answers based on a score from -5 to 5 in the morning, afternoon, and evening. We're going to see what it tells us about sleep and its importance when it comes to happiness. So here's our results. The blue line shows the amount of sleep we all got, and then the columns are how we rated our happiness at different points in the day. And the first thing to note is we're clearly relatively positive people, or at least this week we were. Now, there's only so much you can learn over a week, but I found that my scores tended to deteriorate throughout the day, particularly when I slept badly. If we look at Tuesday and Friday, both days were low on sleeping and ended up with 0 scores in the evening. My sleep going into Friday also happened to be the latest night I had, which impacts well-being even more. Now, before I go into Dan and Matt's results, let's see how they found the whole experience.
Hi, it's Dan. You might know me as the one that pretty much barely got over any sleep over the course of this exercise, but it was really interesting to sort of supposed to pay more attention to it and almost really see the difference between how long you think you slept and how long you really slept. I think in my case, I didn't actually feel super tired in a lot of the cases where I didn't sleep so much, although I did find that I tended to be a bit more irritable and probably distracted a bit easier. The thing is, the sort of week that this took over, I had quite a lot of externalities. I went to visit old friends and I went to day festivals, things like this. So it didn't really have the full effect, I don't feel, because I was quite excited for everything. But I've noticed afterwards I've been very tired, very fatigued. So it's definitely caught up with me. So if it doesn't get to you at the same time, you definitely do need to sleep.
I definitely found that as I got more sleep, obviously I was more prepared for the day, but I'm not gonna lie, I found like actually if I stopped during the day, like I got really tired and really slumped and then kind of just wanted to go to bed, ready for the next day. So I felt like if I kept active throughout the day, after having a good night's sleep, I would then get more done. I feel like around 7 hours, 7.5 hours is maybe about the optimal amount of sleep for me. And obviously the amount of deep sleep I got really impacted how my day went. I think there was one time where I got a tiny amount of deep sleep, and that really affected me because, you know, I just wake up tired, it takes longer to wake up, and then the day it's just a bit of a graft to get through the day. Whereas if I get a bit more deep sleep, sort of that REM sleep cycle, then it really helped out. So cool experiment. Interesting to know what happened, or interesting to know how my sleep affected my moods and also my productivity and just how I function throughout the day.
That's interesting stuff, fellas. I'm impressed Dan can still speak given his schedule and especially going to bed later than I was waking up at times. With that and a few days of consistently sleeping less than 7 hours, it led to some of the lowest scores across the board on those days. On the other hand, Matt was consistently sleeping well, as he said, around 7.5 hours, and had the highest scores of the three of us. In reality though, I think the key thing we learned was that sleep was almost a base layer for our mood. You could of course impact it in other ways, going out and socialising, doing exercise, or dyeing your hair, presumably as some sort of quarter-life crisis. But as Dan says, the externalities matter, but the lack of sleep will catch up to you. Sleep was clearly important, and the science agrees.
Now, that wasn't necessarily the most scientific of studies, but it was definitely interesting to see, and it does match up with what the science says. The optimal amount of sleep you can get for a healthy life, for adults in particular, is between 7 and 9 hours, and as you will have seen from a lot of the data, the days we didn't get that much sleep, we did feel less happy, in less of a good mood, and just not really feeling up for the day. For teens, it's actually between 8 and 10 hours, and for kids, it's between 9 and 11. So if you're slightly younger, you should be trying to get even more sleep. And it only actually drops once you reach about 65 years of age, and that's then just 7 to 8 hours sleep. So it's still probably more than you're getting at the moment. It also makes a difference what time of the night you're going to bed. So if you go to bed much later, in the same way as if you sleep fewer hours, you're much more likely to have more repeating negative thoughts than someone who's sleeping earlier in the evening and for the right amount of time. It's an absolute happiness killer, and I think we saw that a couple of times with some of Dan's nights out. And it makes sense why. The neuroscience behind this is really, really interesting. When you're sleep deprived, the emotional centers of your brain are 60% more sensitive to negative imagery. And there's also almost a complete shutdown of your prefrontal lobe, which regulates your emotions, which makes absolute sense given I'm a complete wanker when I'm tired. Almost more importantly though, people who sleep longer actually tend to rate their own life satisfaction as higher. So from all of this, we understand that we need to sleep the right amount of time, and we need to sleep at the right time of the night. So really, if you can take one thing from this video, I'd say it's this. When you're tired, you're crankier, your brain's not working quite as well as it should be, and you generally feel more irritable. When you're well rested, you are happier, you'll improve your own life satisfaction, and your brain will be working as it should be. There'll be less negative thoughts popping into your head. And finally, fewer people will think you're a bit of a bellend, which is a win. So it does seem like you probably should be getting to bed a little earlier, and if you're watching this late at night, maybe tomorrow you can give it a try and kick off the start to your happier life. And so with that, I'm going to turn the lights off and go to bed.